Have you ever tried to quit only to relapse without even realizing why? It's like you're an autopilot. 1 second you're doing fine, and the next you're in the middle of a binge wondering, how'd I get here again? I've been there more times than I can count. And the real enemy? Triggers. Not the addiction itself, but the hidden emotional cues and habits that light the fire in the first place. Once I learned to see those triggers clearly, I could finally change my responses. In this video, I'll show you how I mapped out my personal trigger patterns, why most people miss the real cause of their relapses, and the simple mental exercise I use to rewire my brain, one reaction at a time. Hey, welcome back. In the last episode, I showed you the exact plan I used to start quitting. But a plan is only as strong as its awareness. Because without understanding your triggers, you're just playing whack-a-mole, fighting symptoms instead of causes. This episode is about surfacing the invisible. We'll cover what internal versus external triggers really are, the habit loop and why it's secretly running your life, my step-by-step trigger journal technique, and how I rewired the brain's emotional association with porn. Whether your triggers are emotional, environmental, or subconscious, this episode will help you see them before they hijack your behavior. I used to think my biggest trigger was boredom, but after tracking my relapses for 2 weeks, I found something surprising. It wasn't boredom, it was shame. See, my relapses almost always happened after something made me feel not good enough. A failed task, a rejection, a bad conversation. It was like my brain was saying, you messed up, might as well feel good for a few minutes. And that's when I realized porn was my emotional escape, not my entertainment, not even about desire most of the time. It was medicine for emotions I didn't want to feel. This changed everything, because instead of treating porn like the enemy, I started treating it like a signal. A red light flashing. Hey, something's off inside. That shift helped me start responding instead of reacting. Let's break this down with some science. Psychologist Charles Duhigg popularized the habit loop, a cycle that looks like this: cue, craving, routine, reward. Here's how it works with porn. Cue: you feel lonely at night. Craving: your brain wants connection or comfort. Routine: you open porn or masturbate. Reward: you get a temporary dopamine spike that soothes the pain. But here's the thing. The brain doesn't care about the habit. It cares about the reward. That means the real trigger isn't just the image on your screen. It's the emotion you're trying to fix. Once I learned that, I started mapping my cues into 2 types: external triggers, late night phone use, certain songs, movies, or scenes, being alone in your room with the door closed, specific websites or apps, unstructured time after 10 p.m. Internal triggers: feeling rejected, boredom, anxiety, shame or guilt, emotional overwhelm. These internal triggers are the hardest to notice, but the most powerful. Once I started tracking them, I could predict when a relapse was coming before it even started. I started keeping a trigger journal. It was simple, but life-changing. Every time I had an urge, I'd pause and write, what time is it? Where am I? What emotion am I feeling? What just happened 30 minutes ago? What do I really want right now, beyond the urge? Over time, patterns emerged. Most of my urges hit between 10:30 p.m. and 1 a.m. They often followed social rejection or failure. The real desire? Not sex, but comfort, relief, and peace. It became clear I wasn't addicted to porn. I was addicted to escape. That realization helped me respond with compassion and strategy. Instead of saying, "No, don't relapse," I started asking, "What do I really need right now?" Sometimes it was sleep, sometimes it was human connection, sometimes it was just a reminder that I'm not broken. Once I identified my triggers, I used a tool called cognitive reframing. Here's how it works. Catch the thought, "I feel like watching porn right now." Identify the underlying emotion. "Actually, I feel lonely and rejected." Reframe it into a compassionate truth. "It makes sense I want comfort, but porn won't solve this. Talking to a friend might." Choose a new action. I send a voice memo to a close friend. I do 5 push-ups. I journal the pain. Anything except defaulting to the old loop. The goal isn't to fight the urge. It's to disarm it by understanding where it comes from and offering yourself a better path. Over time, the brain learns this trigger doesn't equal porn anymore. It equals self-care. Here's one practical example I used to scroll Instagram every night before bed. It seemed harmless until I realized most of my urges started right after. Why? Because I'd see curated, perfect lives, which triggered insecurity and comparison. That emotional low, it became a cue, so I replaced it. Now, I use a different bedtime routine. No phone after 10 p.m., read a real book for 15 minutes, journal, 1 gratitude, and 1 struggle. It's boring, it's not sexy, but it's peace. That tiny change eliminated one of my strongest triggers. It wasn't about willpower. It was about environment and emotional awareness. So I'll ask you, what's your biggest trigger? Is it boredom? Insecurity? Late night loneliness? Write it in the comments. And more importantly, what is your brain actually craving in that moment? The more honest you get about this, the easier it becomes to change the pattern. Because once you understand your triggers, you're no longer reacting blindly. You're responding intentionally, and that's the foundation of freedom.